As we prepare to say sayonara 2025, Nissan finds itself in roughly the position of the Titanic on the 14th of April 1912 at, let's say, roughly 2 a.m, poised above the deepest trench imaginable. Only this one is financial. There is no money at Nissan to spend on anything. They're kind of desperate. And that's a problem if you've got a Navara, which is A, 10 years old, and B, bit of a dog. So they've taken the senior executive management decision to clone the Triton from their alliance partner, Mitsubishi, and it is due for release early next year. And I have to say, cloning's not new, but this is the most naked rip-off ever. Worse even than the X-Class. Obviously, this is not the first time Nissan has indulged in Mitsubishification. The whole industry practices aggravated cloning, and that's why automotive brands are dying. They're being cloned out of existence, and true differentiation is being replaced by marketing masturbation about true differentiation and the nebulous concept we call heritage. But according to the carmaker code of ethics, cloning is okay. The only thing you're not allowed to do is admit that you're doing it, and thereby, obviously, actively killing your brand. Let's start with an agreed set of facts, because that's always a nice place to kick off any argument. And I would therefore suggest that the D23 or NP300 Navara is objectively a piece of shit that does not meet median buyer expectations increasingly year on year. And in the 10 years that piece of shit has been inflicted on the public, it's managed two things. It has trashed the commercial performance of Navara, and it has also scuppered that vehicle's reputation. In 2014, which is the year before the advent of the NP300, Nissan sold about 16,000 Navaras in Australia. That's 4x4s and 4x2s, and it captured 11.1% of the 4x4 ute market of about 134,000 utes. This year, though, Navara sales are on track, if you can call it that, for 7,400 sales based on year-to-date figures to October. But Navara's 4x4 market share has collapsed from 11.1 to just 3.5%, while 4x4 utes generally have exploded in popularity, almost doubling to about 215,000 units in total, extrapolating for the full year. Thanks to the endless bad calls surrounding the NP300 Navara, and despite numerous midlife attempts to defuck this problem, Navara sales have collapsed by more than 50% in a market that has almost doubled. And it's mainly that hideous coil-sprung rear end that is just absolutely hopeless at carrying loads. This is what a train wreck looks like. It's actually a train wreck on a train wreck, because Nissan globally managed to lose 750 billion yen, which is about 8.2 billion Australian dollars, and that was in the financial year to the 31st of March this year. And since then, sales and revenue have further collapsed. There is thus no budget to develop a ute or anything else. Bring back Carlos, I say. I mean, sure, he was abrasive and he ruffled feathers, but he fit neatly in a double base case, didn't he? And he managed to get the company to make cars that actual people wanted. So there's that. This epic financial abyss is why they've been forced to tritonify the new Navara. All the sheet metal the powertrain, the four-wheel drive system, the infotainment, the platform, the suspension geometry, the hard points, the CAN bus, the operating system, and the interior on fundamentals are all nakedly Mitsubishi Triton. They've added logos, a badge, a grille, different lights, but to the same sheet metal apertures in the guards, and different dampers. And that's it. By rights, this should be a one-paragraph press release, if it's a press release at all. It should just say, we're broke, there's nothing we can do about that, the current Navara's a POS, and the Triton's a fine vehicle, so we've decided to clone that and throw our brand under the bus because, hey, it means nothing now, so let's all just move on. But no, we have to pretend that this is in some way a victory for Nissan's proud heritage and local R&D expertise. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to stow your tray table and ensure your seatbelt is securely fastened, because we'll be crash landing on planet F-Wit any time now. This report is sponsored by NordVPN. Get a mega discount plus 4 extra months for free right now with my exclusive deal. Go to nordvpn.com/AEJC now. Online security threats are everywhere, but you don't have to be the next victim. That's where NordVPN comes in, locking everything down securely in the background. Go to nordvpn.com/AEJC now. Every 2-year plan receives that huge discount plus 4 extra months of Nord for free. nordvpn.com/AEJC. Using NordVPN is easy. Just subscribe, download the app and connect. One click later, your IP address is shielded and your traffic is encrypted across as many as 6 of your devices. Nord is the fastest VPN on the planet. It costs only about as much as a single cup of coffee every month to keep your data, your identity, and your devices secure. Masking your location means you'll be able to access content and resources that might be blocked where you live. Plus, you can continue to watch your favourite content when you travel. Boost your online security at nordvpn.com/AEJC. Get that mega discount and enjoy those 4 extra months for free. It's all totally risk-free with Nord's rock-solid 30-day money-back guarantee. It's easy to stay safe online. Go to nordvpn.com/AEJC now. The best way to sum up the quaint mental gymnastics in play here is, you know when you take a dump in your Dax on a busy train on the way to the city on a Monday morning? Well, that can be an objectively excellent dump, dude. Like, it can have all of the right dimensional characteristics. It can be suitably long and satisfyingly thick. It can have all the right material properties. It can be pliable without being too loose, thanks to the high-tech miracles of soluble and insoluble fibre. And it can hit all of the olfactory benchmarks, a sharp and distinct odour that diffuses rapidly throughout the carriage. In short, it could be a dump of which the Virgin Mary herself could be suitably proud to have taken. In that situation, though, the one thing you really can't do, the one thing that is shameless, is to pretend that you are not the in-carriage dumper. And I'd suggest that's exactly what's happening here. The new Navara represents what Australian drivers need from their pickup truck in this region. This isn't just evolution. It's built on 4 decades of Nissan experience with deep Australian insights and a unique suspension calibration tuned by Premcar specifically for our arduous conditions. Andrew Humberston there, the managing director of Nissan Oceania. Big stones, as no one, I'm sure, ever calls him in the building. Bigger stones than me, though, because I would not be game to stand in public and say that in front of a microphone, at least not with a straight face. It begs an obvious question, like which bit of this vehicle is, quote, built on 4 decades of Nissan experience? Is it the lights or the grille or the seats emblazoned proudly with the word Navara? Because surely everything else was built by Mitsubishi. Dude, come on. And as to this unique suspension calibration, we're talking about a set of dampers chosen by the bumper bar factory at Premcar, right? Like, that's what this is. They didn't even change the spring rates. We'll get to that a bit later. The new generation Navara pushes the boundaries of the nameplate, offering even more of what owners value: greater power and torque, improved efficiency, enhanced safety, and a host of advanced new technology features that make on- and off-road driving easier. Okay, so if you've never actually seen a car maker admit that their outgoing model is a piece of shit and that Mitsubishi was actually doing it so much better on so many fronts all along, this is exactly what that would look like. With over 90% of customers for the outgoing D23 Navara selecting a double cab pickup paired with an automatic transmission, Nissan has simplified the Navara lineup and will offer the next generation model exclusively in this body style from launch. So, in a nutshell, fuck you, lawnmower guy. Fuck you, Bikini Mummy landscaping franchise. Jim's Bikini Mummy landscapers. Jim is so clever now. He's sort of horizontally integrated. He has all the bases covered. Very clever man. And he's big on sunscreen. The local suspension development program represents one of the most comprehensive engineering projects undertaken by Nissan here in Australia. I really am trying to give Big Stones the benefit of the doubt here, but I would argue that whatever he just called it, the, quote, local suspension development program, is actually way too grandiose a term for choosing different dampers. It just is. And let me get this straight. He's claiming that this is, whatever he said, if not the most comprehensive, one of the most comprehensive engineering projects that Nissan Oz has ever done. Really? I sincerely wonder if he remembers that they used to build cars here, and they still operate a pretty decent casting plant, and I would further argue that that is where the comprehensive engineering projects at Nissan Australia are actually undertaken. The way I see this, and it's just my personal opinion, when you disconnect from reality, it's so liberating because you can feel entitled to claim anything in spite of the facts. Premcar invested countless man-hours driving the new Navara over 18,000 kilometres, testing across every conceivable surface and driving condition, from the outback's corrugated roads to urban stop-start traffic with heavy loads. Premcar is the outfit in Victoria that used to turn XR8s and the like into FPVs, and today they screw gaudy exterior accessories on top-spec Patrols and Navaras, so hashtag shadow of former self. Just to fact-check this claim about the investment of countless hours, the word countless actually means too many to be counted, or so numerous that it is impractical or impossible to determine the exact number. So it's not countless hours, is it? Because Premcar is a third-party supplier to Nissan Australia, and they build them for it. So figuring out how many man-hours were invested could be as simple as just picking up the invoice and looking at what they were charged for. So let's think about that and be extremely generous to the chaps at Premcar about how many hours were invested figuring out what dampers they liked. 18,000 kilometres, I worked this out. If you average 50 k's an hour, because you did some of it in the city and some of it presumably off-road and the rest of it on highways, But if you average 50, that's 360 hours. And if you put 2 or 3 dudes in the car on average to do that, then that's about 1,000 hours, right? And to be super generous here, let's add about 500 more hours just to run the numbers and build and install some prototype dampers, and say 500 more hours for contingencies because shit happens. 2,000 hours max. So in the context of R&D, not that much. Especially as getting those dampers in the ballpark would not have been that challenging because they had all the data, the mass centroids and the roll axis of the vehicle, and they know the frequency of the vehicle and the frequency of the roads and the corrugations. So how hard is it really to build a model to get started from? As engineering challenges go, I don't see this as a big one. Like, dude, it's just not. In fact, I have seldom seen this much personal lubricant metaphorically applied to choosing a set of dampers. When working on the new Navara, we aimed to honour nearly 40 years of heritage while creating something fresh for today's Australian buyers. That's Ken Lee there. He is the Senior Design Director for Nissan Motor Corporation, so something of a styling bigwig. But I'd suggest it's actually quite difficult to, quote, honour 40 years of Nissan heritage by jamming a grille and some new lights on a Triton. That would be more of a slap in the face, surely. I mean, why the actual fuck even make a statement about heritage when clearly there is nothing when you clone a Mitsubishi product? This is the end of the line, therefore, for Navara, quote-unquote, heritage, and it was ignominious for the 10 years prior. Let's not forget that. It's also very difficult to, whatever else he said, quote, create something fresh for Australian buyers if you're compelled to use 99.5% of a 2-year-old Triton, which doesn't even have wired Android Auto coming into 2026. This wasn't about nostalgia. It was about understanding what makes a Navara instantly recognisable and then evolving that for modern life in Australia and Kiwiland. We needed to deliver a pickup that looks confident on a construction site, but... Sorry, I just can't read the rest of that crap, dude. It's making me ill, regurgitating that. It's like regurgitation inception, isn't it? So let's stick with the one thing here that we absolutely can agree on. It is absolutely divorced from nostalgia. Within the interior, all grades of the new Navara are spacious and thoroughly appointed. The Pro 4X grade stands apart with lava red accents throughout, including on the leather accented seats, as well as embossed logos and high contrast stitching. That beautiful red lava accenting, clearly the best they could do, straight from a mid-90s low-class house of ill repute. So, when you think about the median expectations of the maximum wank chariot bogan ute buyer, 2 thumbs up, dude. Styling cues on the money. Approved. The Navara incorporates a comprehensive technology suite designed to enhance both work and lifestyle applications. A standard 9-inch advanced infotainment system features DAB digital radio, Android Auto, and wireless Apple CarPlay connectivity, ensuring seamless smartphone integration without cables. Without cables, really. What they actually mean there, okay, is that this, whatever they called it, impressive technology suite, does not include wireless Android Auto. It doesn't, because it's ripped off from the Triton. It's exactly the same infotainment unit, and the Triton does not have wireless Android Auto going into 2026. Jesus. The new Navara will be available with a pair of advanced 4-wheel drive systems that seamlessly adapt to changing conditions, maximising both fuel efficiency and performance. On applicable grades, an easy 4-wheel drive system automatically switches between 2-wheel drive for highway cruising and 4-wheel drive when extra traction is needed. Okay, understood. Easy four-wheel drive for cheapskates and morons and fleet buyers, or for cheapskate moron fleet buyers. But no four-wheel drive on high traction surfaces going into 2026. Additionally, for STX and Pro 4X grades, a new super four-wheel drive system offers a full-time high-range mode with an open centre differential. Well, golly gee, James Robert, it's almost as if easy four-wheel drive and super four-wheel drive are just easy select and super select from Mitsubishi with new names. That must be the new bit. But how exactly is this new in any other way, as they claim, apart from the bullshit names? Easy Select is okay, I suppose, and Super Select is outstanding. It's one of those features that has differentiated the Triton for some years now. However, I would argue that calling these things different names for convenience when you know that you're just cloning the whole thing anyway, well, that's just cheap and tacky and intelligence insulting to anybody who actually pays attention to vehicles or the car industry and what's happening. Just in closing now, because this is such an important issue for the industry, because there's so much more cloning going to happen into the future, and therefore that impacts you. And we need to be, I think, honest and open about it as an absolute minimum. Let's have two quotes from the dude who used to run Nissan in Australia, whose name is Stephen Lester. He was the then managing director of Nissan Australia. And this is what he said on the MY18 update for the D23 Navara, like the outgoing one. And this was delivered on the 13th of February 2018. The 2018 Nissan Navara includes some important new additions that will continue to entice ute buyers to the Nissan brand. No. On balance, it didn't. Sales continued to spiral into the sewer for the next 8 years or whatever it was. And here's what he said a couple of years later concerning the advent of the N-Trek Warrior. Designed, re-engineered and tested in Australia, we've created a hero Navara, safe in the knowledge that Nissan's legendary engineering, durability and reliability remains. Yeah, remains driving sales into the trench until you killed it in 2026, I'd suggest. And this is the problem in a nutshell, okay? Car makers seem to think that in the moment they are entitled to issue any statement, any horse shit of convenience, and who cares about the facts, right? That vehicle, the NP300 D23, whatever you want to call it, was objectively such a dog and sales were destroyed. Navara was previously so much more popular. It was a real contender, and now it's not, okay? Car makers buy the mainstream, that's not a bad term actually, the mainstream media. They buy the comment with advertising, right? Or at least they attenuate criticism by purchasing advertising in journalistic outputs that review cars, etc. So they hardly ever get called out for their horse shit, which I guess is an opportunity for someone who doesn't give a crap what they think, such as me. Nissan does not do any legendary engineering. That's bullshit. They do some decent engineering in their casting plant. I'll give them that. But the rest of these claims about legendary engineering and historical this and historical that, it really just is an archaeological artefact from last century at best. Certainly before the global financial crisis, Nissan was something. But they suffered brain damage during that event and they never recovered, and they never will. They're in the biggest black hole ever right now. They're going to need every frickin' vascular surgeon on Earth to stem the bleeding. They really are. I mean, this is a big hole, $8 billion, and it's getting worse. Legendary engineering, incidentally, is expensive. You don't just whip it up. And they can't afford it. They really can't. That's why they're cloning the frickin' Triton, dude. So the brand And all of that history and the mythology that orbits it, which was anchored to substantive products that evolved previously last century and got better and better and better and gave rise to some proper supercars and vehicles like iconic patrols that were really good in the context of their competition a couple of decades ago, that's evaporated. Cloning and bullshit are the new brand, right? And it just doesn't stack up. It doesn't. Amaroks today are Rangers. They're built in South Africa, where presumably lions incentivize the workers. South Africa is a long, long way from Wolfsburg in every automotive respect. 10 years ago, the emissions cheaters sold 6,435 Amaroks in the year to October 2015, and they captured 5.8% of the 4x4 ute market. This year to October, the corresponding period, they managed 4,649 sales, which is a reduction of almost 1,800 Amaroks, or 28%. Their market share has fallen by more than 50%, however, from 5.8% back then to 2.6% this year. And that, I would argue, is another clone-induced commercial train wreck. The Mercedes X-Class was an NP300 Navara, and that worked out so unbelievably well. Even the median three-prong buying git managed to see straight through that one. BT50s are, of course, D-Maxes today, but at least they managed to make it look like an actual Mazda. Meanwhile, of course, China is out of the blocks and well on the way, offering 300 kilowatt dual cab utes that have got all of the contemporary crap on them, right? So not only do they go like the clappers, they got all the shit, the price is right. And meanwhile, the legacy ute manufacturers are still asking themselves, can we get away without wireless Android Auto? It's absolutely ridiculous. And they're crapping on about heritage and legendary engineering and nebulous concepts of this nature while they're deploying just another clone of convenience, right? By omission, without admitting it. And the house is on fire. They're in a black hole. The house is on fire around them. And I would argue that they have absolutely no idea what an effective countermeasure against this marketplace inversion that's on right now and driven by China. There's no escaping it. They've got no idea what an effective countermeasure even looks like.